All right. Hello, 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 everyone. I am Rosalind Brown of Your Wealth Guidance, where we provide Black women tools and resources so you can live life on your own terms. And so we talk about this conversation pretty often. And it's for a number of different reasons. It's regardless if you just hate where you're working today, you want to do something different, you want to do more of a passion. And I think a lot of us are having this conversation in terms of, are we just working to work, or are we working in a place, in a realm where you're really able to use your genius? And so I actually saw this post, oh gosh, a few weeks ago, and it talked about 40 is when people really start to make a pivot and make a change and really start to think about what really matters and what you value. And I definitely remember when I was in my 20s and I was like, hey, I need all the promotions. I'm working late every night. And I think a mix between COVID and age really put things into perspective. And so since 2012, Richard has helped over 6,200, that's 6,200 clients gain new careers and jobs. Clients average an increase of 29,500 in pay jumps. That's enough. That's enough to do something to it. Do something with. He helps professionals with their personal brand, increasing their confidence, networking skills, and LinkedIn profiles. He is a federal resume expert and knowledge, skills, and abilities SME. As a veteran, he successfully helped to transition veterans land new careers and positions. He helped everyone from your laborer to your CIO. He actually said, even, what was it, a rocket scientist?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
So, even in professional and nonprofit leadership, he has experienced administrative management professional with experience in operations, facilities, human resources, and career coaching. He is an experienced leader in both unionized and non unionized environments, having worked in the federal, public, and private sector. And I have just realized that there are more organizations that are unionizing recently. So, that might be something to know about.
Oh
And so
yeah.
Richard currently serves as the human resource manager for the City of Alexandria Library System, where he serves as the HR chief for the entire library. So all my book girls say hey. Nonprofit leadership includes appointments as director of membership and public relations, which increased membership by 65%. In 2019, he had 274 clients hired. 2020, everybody know what was going on in 2020. 321 clients hired, 21, 329 in 2022, 336. We are getting to almost like a client a day. And in 2023 so far, we're at 128. And so we see results. And one of the great things is like, all right, if you're at this point, and I think a lot of people are having these conversations where they're like, am I going to get fired? Am I going to be laid off? What is next? So when you're preparing for like the what is next, am I staying on this job? Should I make a decision? One, how do you know it's time to pivot? Or how do you know you're at a situation or at a point in your career where you can?
First, the minute you start thinking about that, you need to start put mind to paper to practice. And the reason why I say that is because it generally takes about 4.5 to 6.5 months to find a job. And if you're someone that has a very targeted, specific skill set, it can take you a while. The best time to look for a job is when you have one. I understand that most people don't necessarily want to jump, leave right away because I make 150,000. I'm good. I'm good. Well, truth of the matter is, you should still go on the interviews and practice because you never know when that skill set's going to be needed. And okay, you turn it down, give it to somebody else, or they might say we like you, call us back for something else that we might have. You never know, so there's opportunity there. But the minute you start feeling that way is the minute that you should start passively applying to jobs and putting yourself out there because that's important. So that's my recommendation.
Now, I'm sure there are people out there and they're like, well, I've been applying to stuff, but no one's calling me back. What could they be doing wrong? Why does no one like them?
Well, it's not that nobody likes them, but what I will say is that a lot of the issues that even with my clients, when I work with my clients and they come back and say they haven't got phone calls, and I look at the time frame from when I sent it to them to the time frame that they're at now, I will tell you a lot of the times it's how they're looking for jobs. There's certain things that folks don't they're fixated on job titles. They might be fixated on salaries. They might be fixated on certain things. So when you look at jobs, I say pay attention to job responsibilities and how HR classifies the jobs, because sometimes what might be a completely different title in one department is completely different somewhere else. So essentially, you might be performing a business resource analyst three position at, let's just say, a bank, because apparently, they have these weird titles, but really you're like a senior project manager and you're making buku money. So, but if you type in senior project manager, you're not going to see business resource analyst. You see what I'm saying? So you need to focus on the title, I mean, the job description, but focus on keywords that you're interested in, because that's going to train also your computer when you're applying, and it's going to do that algorithm search with all them cookies. Everything is starts popping up, and you'll start seeing those things pop up in certain areas that you'd be like, well, I didn't know that was there. So, something to consider. And then another big thing that I'm a big proponent of is formatting. I know, I know, I know. Everybody wants these cute, pretty looking resumes. I'm here to tell you, I'm not the guy for that. Okay. And believe it or not, a lot of the resumes I receive are actually created with all these funky graphics and formatting and X, Y, and Z that actually impacts the way your resume gets read. So again, two major factors: the way you look for jobs, and two, your formatting on your resume. I could go on, but those are two major factors. When you look at why am I not getting phone calls, those are it.
Now, that is a good point. Is it a place that people should be looking? I think a lot of times you might be leaning towards like LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is what we're familiar with and what we know. Are there, I think back in the day, folks used to use like Monster and all those kind of things. Are there certain job sites? See, I was like, back in the day. Are there job sites that are stronger than others when you're at least starting the search process?
I mean, outside of like your Glassdoor, Indeed, ladders.com, governmentjobs.com as well, which is also a great website that people, because everybody always thinks federal, everybody seems to forget about state, county, city government jobs that also pay well and have decent retirement systems. Again, there's something to consider when you're looking at some of these jobs. And then, the associations that you guys pay for, there's so like, go on, if you're a member of the association of executives or etc., I found that website to be a hidden gem for a lot of people that just don't know. That website has some great jobs, and I've had very good success sending clients to that website and applying to jobs. So it's like thinking about your day to day, right? For example, let's say that, all right, finance professional. Okay, all right, I've been working at JP Morgan for the past 5 years. Oh, now I'm at Capital One. And all of a sudden I lost my job, right? And let's say, why wouldn't you think about working at your local water company where they're making decent money? And guess what? They have a utility billing system and you need to go manage the finance for them. You don't think that they have finance jobs there that pay well? It might not be corporate money, but you're going to get paid and you're going to have job security. So again, people forget about the day-to-day things that you're paying for as well. Like, okay, your electric company. I mean, why not just take a random search, a dumb search, and go literally type in something, say, well, you know what? Let me go look at Amtrak. And then you'd be like, whoa, marketing manager, Amtrak. Let me go ahead and try it. So I mean, there's things like that. We're just so hung up on, I'm gonna go look at here. Like I've had clients tell me that they're looking in LinkedIn only, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you're killing me. What I mean? So and then they get deterred because they'll see, there was 600 clients. I'm sorry, 600 applicants on this one job, and they're like, oh, I don't think I'm good enough. And I'm like, bro, apply. So there's that as well.
And so if you're using these search terms, which I think is such a phenomenal way to even think about it, because depending on what industry you're in, people call things different things, and you're looking to be a project manager five different places and they don't even call it the same thing in those five different places. Should you be coming up with like five keywords or five strengths or special skills and then you search that way. How are you kind of going through to find these descriptions or responsibilities that work within your talent?
That's a good, very good question. I appreciate that. So I'll break it down like as simple as possible, right? So you heard about my background. I've literally worked everything, but if you think about it, they all touch each other, right? So for example, working in facilities in most places is under at what administration or operations, depending on what it is. It could be operations and maintenance, or it could be administrative support or administrative services, right? So then, depending on the type of facility job it is, it could be maintenance or it could be overarching what they call corporate services or workplace services in the corporate world. Or I'd be an administrative manager or an office manager. So I'm literally taking one job, and I've now broken it down to 8 different ways that are I could literally go on and type it in. So what I would do, okay, administrative, administration, operations, facilities, workplace, workplace management, workplace services, or and then vendor management. So think about it, because then they're all key components of a job. I'm not telling you to necessarily hone into that degree, but it will help you in terms of what you'll find. Like yeah, I'm trying to think of what's another good avenue. Wow, I'm not, I don't want to be fixed. I don't know why I'm fixated on finance today, but with finance, you know, you could also leverage some of your skill for procurement, review, managing accounting, procurement, billing, etc. So there are words like that that you want to type in: resource management, resource allocation, which is used throughout different organizations. So, or again, vendor management, or if you want to be finance, you could put financial analysis. I mean, whatever the case may be, or if you really are one of those data folks, you can literally type in, advanced Excel, Jira, SQL, the systems under it, and then you might get a plethora of jobs, but there's a lot there.
This is a really good question. So, Not Before 10 says, as an early retired U.S. Postmaster, I have
Mm,
never found anything that had my crossover skills. Thank you, girl, for getting the mail to us.
I love this because I've actually helped quite a bit of postal employees. I've helped a few postmasters, but in general, like, there's quite a bit that you actually qualify for. And if you could veer off a couple of different directions. Number one, you can work in inventory, logistics, warehouse management. You can work in personnel if you wanted to as well. When you talk about skill set, you're managing people, right? You're managing KPIs, key performance indicators. You're managing the way customer service is being handled. There's avenues, again, all those things combined are a reason for you to get hired and move to somewhere else. So it's something to consider. You do have the skill set in the background. It's just a matter of either letting someone help you write it, or you look around and take pieces of each one of those things I mentioned and add it to your resume so it breaks it down. Sometimes you really do need to break it down, because while you might talk about, I managed 320 routes and had 45 route carriers under my guidance. That's great. That's great leadership. And then you can expand on it by breaking it down for people. The thing is yes, sometimes you have to break it down for simplistic reasons so folks understand what you do.
I think that's a really good point. Now, KB has a good question. She says, do you have any advice for educators who want to transition out of the school system? Girl,
Oh,
you live and speak
listen.
good because I
Li-
couldn't do it.
oh my goodness. So number one, I thank you for being an educator, okay? But I've had so many educators come to me looking to transition out of the school system. So one of the first things that and this is typical, and I admit I have a simple plan with all y'all because it makes sense and it's a working strategy. Until it don't work, I will stop doing it. You guys need to be focused on the human resource development part of HR, the learning management, the training, the curriculum design. You need to start working on other areas, even outside of that part of HR. there's learning, depending on where you go, learning management systems, curriculum design. I mean, there's so much that you can leverage skill set wise that will translate, and you, again, you need to mention it. If you don't have anything mentioning about education, technology, or technology and learning in your resume, how is that recruiter going to understand? Okay, well, I understand that she's taught, at this level from K1 to K8, or K, whatever, to 12. Um, but you also need to probably put something about, professional development and training your peers, because a lot of y'all have had to conduct training for your fellow adults, which
Mhm.
again is part of what the adult you can say that you participate with using adult learning theory, or the Addy model, or whatever the case may be. Again, I've done everything, so I know the language and I know how to work it. So instead of taking a pedagogical approach, you're taking the Addy model approach. So you're using key words and things of that nature to switch and highlight what it is that you're doing.
Oh, I love that. And I think so there's going to be people out there that say, yeah, all right, another resume. See, not before 10. She said, I did a lot of training. So, girl, you got a whole bunch you can talk about.
Hey, exactly.
But like for people who are saying, all right, I already got a resume, what would make your resume any different? Like what makes your resume, especially in today's world, different than like a chat GPT or something like that? What listen, this is what people are saying.
So y'all about to get me fired up. Okay, number one, as an HR professional, okay, and someone that has done resumes for a long time, I can read through resumes. I've never, in my career doing this, in terms of what I've done with my business and everything else, I've never used a job scan in my life. I've never used ATS. So that says that my human approach has been 95% accurate. And even on my low end, it's 92. I have never gone under 92 with my human approach that I've taken, which means I connect with people. I understand people. I understand what a soulless computer won't do. Okay. And I also know when I've read and I put stuff in chat GPT and I'm like, this has no soul. It looks good and it's a simplified way to help guide you. And I agree to that, but it's not telling your story. So then you have this perfectly laid out resume, or what you think is perfect, it's not telling the true story of who you are, or it's not going to give those extra breakdowns. So while I say, okay, let me transition from educator to learning development manager, and if you write it properly, you might get it. But even then, you might get a couple of calls. But what happens if you meet somebody like me, or you meet somebody else that decides, I'm going to go chat GPT this resume and I'm going to go decide and see what percentage of it is actually hitting? Or my peers in the industry, and I've seen the TikToks, and I wish I could smack them, telling y'all to put that what's that, the taking the white font of the job description and dropping it
Oh,
in one. Y'all not slick. Y'all not slick. I'm telling you. So why? Let me explain why. Because at the end of the day, nothing makes me more happy than seeing people win, right? And yes, I failed, but as a very, 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 very low number. I'm gonna tell y'all, people might not like that, and I'm sorry for those who have been part of that number, but I have a very high success rate. Life happens. I'm a human. I'm not a robot. While I produce, well, dang, while I have produced miracles and I've produced very great outcomes for people, it does still take the onus of the individual. So if you're looking for someone to be your cheerleader and you're looking for someone to help push you, that's where that comes in. If you feel like your resume is good enough, you don't need to speak to me. I'm not someone that's going to push clients to work with me, and I'm not here to upsell. At the end of the day, if you chose to work with me, I will work with you and I'll make sure you're good to go. And I do, again, have a high success rate for that reason. I trust myself and my own abilities, and I do not let people sway me, including recruiters who tell my clients that the resume is a certain way. And I have to go back and say, do not change that resume, because I promise you, you'll get hired in about another month and a half. And they do. Then I'm happy. So again, it's a matter of being confident in your approach. When you know what you're good at, it'll help. And sometimes you struggle, but I will simply say it's still important that having a decent resume is important. However you choose to do it. So if you use ChatGPT, please do it. If you choose to pay for a service, whether it's mine or anybody else, make sure that you're happy with that decision and you move forward with it. Just remember, I mean, McDonald's has bad days and they're still in business. I'm
And that's
just
another
saying.
good point, just overall, like even as you're applying, if you have an interview and it don't go well, I mean, sometimes you be sitting there like, listen, let's just both go home. This ain't going on. Like it's
Right, absolutely.
and sometimes it's like, because I don't ever want to work with you people. Like, I don't want to be on your team. I don't like the culture. I mean, I've definitely sat through that. I've sat through a lunch, and as we talk about company culture, and they're just like,
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
no, like, bag mine up.
And
I'm ready to go already.
absolutely, exactly. I'm not gonna get into that one, but I stress, culture being very important, and it's important in making a decision in your career. And if it's a place that you're unhappy and you recognize it's gonna be unhappy, leave. Um, I I get it. It's not easy to leave, but sometimes you have to do what's right for you.
And as you're looking, so I think one reason that sometimes, and I think you mentioned it before, people like, listen, I make $150,000. Maybe they make $200,000. Like, listen, I done reached this point. It took me forever. Most of my friends and family never gonna see this amount of money. One, if they're out there looking, how do you make sure? Because we know a few states are requiring people to disclose the actual income. How do you know that these opportunities are going to align with where you need to be for your pockets?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, this is a very good question. I don't know. I just know I put a certain criteria when I put my salary requirements in. But if you're, I personally think that when you are making a certain amount of money, right? Um, the same way you talk about saving retirement and everything else, I just truly believe you need to start working with certain people because not everybody pays that type of money in a certain area. So now you're looking at maybe getting a headhunter. Maybe you need to go work with someone that can help you get hired and tell you, hey, they're offering 210 here remote, but you need to travel at least, 2, 3 times a month, as compensation. You're making 149 and $25,000 bonus. You're like, well, damn, that's high. Then I'm getting an additional $85,000 bonus. So you're making 298 or whatever the case may be. There's some parameters that you just should. It's almost like having a resume. It's key and it's part of the fabric of who you are as a professional. Certain levels require certain requirements, meaning you want your CPA, you go get your CPA to get the extra 150,000 or 100 plus. You want your PMP to get the 150 or whatever. You want your SHRM, which I'm working towards, to finally get, not just to have that under my name, so it solidifies. So again, it's just a matter of your approach and how you go about it.
And I think so. That's a good point when we talk about like letters and numbers and all that stuff behind your name. How important is it? I always tend to think, if you have enough experience, and sometimes the less experience, the more important the letters and numbers and all that kind of stuff can be. Um, but how important is that if somebody's trying to figure out, should they go back and get another degree? Should they go back and invest in something? Does that make sense? Especially if they're like, I mean, I like what I do, but I don't love it.
I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm a big proponent of education because you know my story. I dropped out. I got my GED and went through all the way through to getting my master's. So my story is different. So I'm big on education, but I needed it for me, and I needed to make sure that my name is good. So I can't speak for everyone else, but I will say, if you're in an industry that certificates, for example, IT, we all know those certificates are golden. You have those and you maintain those certificates, you're set. You don't do that, you're screwed. And you know that you're gonna have a hard time. And it brings literally is the difference between making, over 100 or steadily making at least 75,000 and being okay. And that's average, or less, but I mean, I'm just saying, like having a letter is help. I think certain places that we all know, if you work in public health, an MPH is the standard. So you're going to have to work towards getting that. You can by trade have a BA and have a CPA, and you'll be considered pretty decent. You might not have the MBA, but they'll take you because you have the CPA and you pass their certificate. You know, so I mean, there's and you might have 15 plus years of leadership management experience, which counts. So then they might send you to an executive leadership, so you have a master's certificate in executive leadership because of the potential and things that you've done. So there's that as well, and there's plenty of opportunity for you. I just think that it helps based on the industry, and you know your industry. It's like being a safety manager, and you know that you need OSHA 30 or OSHA 40, and then you need this. If you really want to be golden, you want to get the CSP, you know, the certified safety professional. I mean, there's just literally every industry has a requirement, but also doesn't have a major need for you to have certain degrees. The certificates help as you grow, for sure, and I think there's a bigger emphasis on that now, especially because I think certain, how can I say this? Certain folks are trying to certain folks and individuals and institutions are trying to downplay the degrees now because so many people are attaining degrees, all right, which is messed up. So you know what, we have to continuously be better and have information
Mm-hmm.
and have knowledge, which means you're gonna go get those certs or go get those extra stuff. You know, as a black man with tattoos and military experience and etc., my master's degrees hold weight. You know, no one will ever take that away from me. So for me, I'm good. I'm happy. You know, do I want a doctorate degree? No, I want to help y'all. If I take my doctorates, I'm not going to be able to do what I need to. So again, you got to think about what works for you.
And I think you made a good point, and we talked about this before we started the live tonight in terms of especially women. You know, all for the
Yeah.
black women, but I'm here trying to help my black women so we can live our life until the black man come around to, take care of what. So oftentimes we're looking at these opportunities and maybe it says prefer MBA, prefer CPA, like
Yeah,
whatever it
yeah.
is. And you're like, but I ain't got that. I'm just gonna have to wait. I'm gonna wait 3 years until I can get this certification or until I can get this degree. How do you know that it is a push or like a passion or something? You're like, listen, I think I can do it, but I don't know. I don't have all the bullet points. I don't have everything that they're saying they might want, especially for women. And we know stats say this, especially kind of the difference between women and men. How do we get more women to see, girl, you got enough, you ready? Go ahead, do it.
This is tough because I mean it's primarily black women that do this, and even white women too. Believe it or not, they it's universal. But black women clients of mine tend to struggle with this a lot, and they're the ones who are also doing very, very, very well, which is very surprising. So it's that constant: am I good enough? Am I feeling myself to be able to achieve X, Y, and Z? And you think to yourself like, what? You're doing what? You're fine. You know, so it's an extra push. And it's unfortunate that we have to go do that, but I get it because of corporate culture and the challenges faced by, you know, a woman, especially black women in the workplace. So I simply will tell you that given the circumstance, when I deal with these particular situations, I always tell, if you even look at it remotely for more than a couple of seconds or take a little longer to look, apply. If you even just at that point, do it, you know, then and it's like, even if it says preferred, it doesn't mean that's what they like, but they're always not going to get that type of job. Like, for example, coming out the military, I applied for a procurement analyst position, and I had an associate's, but I had 4 years of experience and associate's degree, but they wanted someone a BA with 5 to 7. I went to the interview, did very well, secured the position, and got it, and found out that the position was a lot more different than I expected. What it still had procurement, but again, I challenged myself because I said I can make that because I still have military experience. I have X, Y, and Z. I don't have the 5 to 7, but I have the 4. But I have, and I don't meet any criteria. But I have enough that I know that they're going to call me, and I'm getting a job.
Now, one of the things and why people are probably using like the LinkedIn with like the quick apply, that kind of thing, because all you gotta do is hit like boom, boom, boom. So should they be updating the resume for each and every opportunity? And then, how many resumes? Because people are like, oh, I've sent in 100 resumes, I've applied 50 places. Like, what is the magic number in terms of like how many per week or how many per day, or how many edits to an individual resume itself?
Hmm. Okay, this is where I differ from a lot of people, and that's why I have my own. Again, this is how you guys will get an insight on how I work. I don't listen to everybody. Okay, so what I mean by that is I do not. I am not an advocate of changing resumes consistently. If you know your approach and you know the type of jobs that you're going for, there are going to be certain similarities in language and certain things that they have on there that's going to help you. If you tailor it appropriately and change it, maybe minor tweaks here and there, you shouldn't have 51 million resumes for an HR job. You shouldn't have 51 million jobs. If you know, okay, I want to have, I know that I'm an accounting professional, but I can do administration leadership and be a finance and administration director. Or I know that I could manage a team that manages facilities, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, but I don't have that experience, but I have the budget management experience, the strategic leadership experience, and knowing how to, explain budget and accounting at the high level, but I know how to work teams. So guess what? So, those are factors, to look at. Um, if I struggle with this because I have like maybe 5 set of resumes, but then I started only using 2, right? And how I do it is I have my federal one, and I completely changed my private sector and my public sector one, because they can, public sector and federal can be slightly longer. It is what it is. Private, I try to do it at 2 to 3. And you don't believe that one-page crap. Man, we don't we passed that. Anybody tell you that, tell them to, yeah, you know what? Like, we don't have time for that. Um, so I simply really, all I'm saying is target your approach. You will know the type of positions that you're going after, and that will help you get to where you need to go. And you don't have to constantly change everything. You don't have to constantly go about doing X, Y, and Z, and you'll be okay. So, that those are things to think about and consider when you are looking for jobs and etc. I do not believe you need to constantly change it. If you're doing it right, then yeah. Um, Again, pay attention to the qualifications. Those qualifications can be changed and added to your resume. And people tend to forget about soft skills. When we talk about the preferred qualifications and those qualifications, there's certain things that are always, always, always on job announcements. And you want to know what that is? Excellent verbal and written communication skills. Now imagine if I am a recruiter and I've decided I'm going to go ahead and do a search. I got 500 applicants. I'm going to press I want excellent verbal written communication skills. Boom. All right. Now I want to drop it down to who has advanced MS Office. Okay, now I'm at 125. Okay. So let's type in another word. Boom. I want this person with some business intelligence. Now I'm at 89. Okay. I can live with reviewing 89 resumes for this job. I'm good to go. And now I'm gonna disqualify everybody else. So, you know, again, there's factors all involved when it comes to that.
And I like this, and especially because you work on the federal side and the private sector. This is a good comment. As someone who's never had a non-government resume, she says she finds this information very interesting for people. And oftentimes there's people like on either side. So either they've
Yeah,
always been in the government or they've always been on the other side.
yeah.
Tell people what the difference is.
Length and length, specialized experience, and knowledge, skills, and abilities are pretty much what public sector, federal sector looks at. It's not so much a keyword search as it is, or keywords as it is for like private sector. Private sector, you definitely can have the keywords and write it a certain way, and there, you want to condense the information, maybe streamline it some more. Whereas though you can literally have like 20, 15 to 20 bullets on a federal resume. You don't do that on a private sector. You might want to condense your top 5 to top 6, and even then you might want to condense that. I'll give you a good example, right? So let's say you are about to retire and you're like, I'm still young. I went from a GS7 to a GS14. I've been I've been working in admin. I don't know. Again, I don't know why I'm fixated today on admin, but um, and you're like, well, I can do this job elsewhere, but I've been with the same department, eight same agency, eight different departments. Okay. Now here you have this 10 to 15-page resume. Once you break it down, right? So you combine the dates because you've been at the same place of employment for so long, you can literally break it down to three. So it'll be 555 or 557. And then in that way, it'll at least you can have a 2-pager if you want to, or three, and it'll show basically the higher level jobs that you've had and some of those key skill sets. So then you don't have to have a big resume per se.
And so the resume is one thing. That's one way that you're going to introduce yourself to an organization.
Oh
And then
yeah.
there's your, your social
Mm,
impact, your social
mm.
image. And for most people, that's going to be on like a LinkedIn.
Oh
What
yeah.
are some of the mistakes that you're seeing that people make, or maybe missed opportunities that you're seeing people make when it comes to LinkedIn?
They're not connecting, not networking with people, and they're forgetting it's also like their open resume. Because at the end of the day, you're connecting with folks, you're reaching out to people, you're going about having conversations, it's the same exact thing. You're spending the time networking, you're sending your resume, you're connecting with somebody from someone else. Be like, well, you know what? I want to go reach out to Louis Vuitton's under, like they're like the assistant manager for the brand design, whatever branding. And maybe, I know I won't be able to reach the higher one, but maybe I could reach them and see what they have, and they might be more responsive. So it's like there's opportunity there, and you get to see who you can talk to or not. And it also gives you an opportunity to be more proactive in your approach. Mistakes that people make are they feel like it's only there to apply, right? But they're not posting on a daily basis or liking a post or sharing something. You don't even have to comment on anything. But if you at least do some sort of daily activity, people will see that and people will go on your page and say, hey, I want to reach out to her or him.
I think that can sometimes be like that missed opportunity, because
I,
I don't know if you've ever either applied somewhere and then, 24 hours later, it's like, so and so just looked at your profile and you're like, dang, I should have gussied that thing on up. Should have made it. Because
oh,
if
absolutely.
they're looking and they're like, should I pick this one or this one? And you're like, oh, I mean, I hope they like what I posted. I hope
Oh,
my
yeah.
picture is good. Like that kind of thing. And it's like that missed opportunity of standing out amongst someone else. So I
Yeah.
think that's something big to do or think about as well.
Absolutely. And like, for example, you being a soar and you're able to connect with a whole bunch of people, but what happens if your reach isn't necessarily like say, like there's a chance for a business expo and in Mississippi somewhere, and they want somebody from the East Coast to come out. And they're like, you know what? Because we know the type of people that you work with, Ross, and we know that you can reach these audiences. These people need to know that it's attainable. So we'll bring you out here. We'll take care of you, sis. etc. But again, how are you? That connection of you being here, right? And then being on that LinkedIn, and then here's this, that you can reach that type of person, even though y'all might be affiliated. It's now opening a new set of people to your organization. Just like I'm able to, as a Mason, to reach out to certain folks if I wanted to globally, if I wanted to, but I mean, when I feel like it, but you know,
But
but
having the opportunity.
yeah, and it gives me a chance to maybe connect with someone that I probably didn't expect I connect with, and at least at minimum, I get the courtesy of a hey, all right, I can at least do this for you.
And that's kind of like building up on. So we've talked about just the resume and where to look, and then looking outside of the normal channels, and then the LinkedIn. But we know it's those connections that make a difference. So that gets, even though you might not have had all the keywords, if you know the key person, all right, we'll do 90 instead of 89 now, that
Right,
kind of thing.
right,
how do you
and
how do you network? How do you stand out? How do you make those connections so that people remember you, they speak about you when you're not in the room, they get you to that hiring manager?
doing what I just mentioned. outside of that, having that conversation, is there special projects I can work on? If you know that you have a good relationship with someone, let that man director call your director and say, hey, I want her so and so for 2 weeks on a protected project. She'll still work with you, but I need her for Monday, Wednesday. You know what I mean? Like you're building your own rapport with these folks. And sometimes it does require you to do a little bit more on your own. Um, while I'm a big advocate for networking, I'd be the first one to tell you I'm the guy that actually has more success with the resumes. My clients get hired because they're able to get hired based upon the them applying through positions and getting their resumes, and to the point where it's actually opposite. A lot of them have been hired through networking, and now they've plateaued. So guess what? They come to me and they say, "Hey, Rich, I'm done. I can't. I don't have my. I've literally utilized everything I can, and now can you help me?" You know. So there's that too. There's that part of it as well. So in short, I mean, it goes both ways. But I will say that networking is key. If you're not a networker, network with the people who can. If you're an introvert that doesn't really like to talk to people, find someone that can be your advocate, or someone, that you trust that's a little bit more out there and they know that they respect your work and your work ethic, and let them be your vocal point. And, I don't know if it was Harry S. Truman who said it, but someone says it was something about credit, right? Sometimes it's okay someone else gets the credit if it lands you to something bigger. I know I'm wrong, but I'm telling you the quote
Something
is,
like
is like it's quote, but that quote is powerful because sometimes they won't forget you, and if they do, leave. But there are folks that remember what you did and they will look out for you because of sometimes that big project that somebody is looking for and needs help with, and you help them, they'll remember that, and when the time comes, they'll remember you when you least expect it.
Now, tell us about what it is like working with you. And I always say one of the bigger things is how to best prepare to work with you. So, somebody can't be like, listen, I'm leaving this place. I'm going to call him tomorrow and you're going to find me a job. how,
I'm gonna
how
tell
does
you,
it?
and I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna take 3.5, 4.5 months, possibly. And you actually you said something that I actually want to really go back. And it's important because it actually ties into what your question is now. And I didn't think about it. Was in terms of the amount of jobs you should be applying for, I say a minimum 10 a day, right? 10 a day. But I was very aggressive. So you don't want to know. So if I tell you that I, as a resume writer, set where you set, have lost jobs, been fired, been laid off, been X, Y, and Z, there's nothing that you can tell me because I've sat down and I've done it. And I've had 100, 300, 400 applications. I had no. There is no set number. But one thing I get frustrated with, even with my clients, is, oh, I put in 300 applications, and I want to say so bad because I'm like, this. It's not. This is a number. It's not. It's not. Yes, you do see the results. Yes, you do see my clients getting hired, but majority of my folks have put in the time and the effort to get hired because it's 3.5 months to do so. You're always applying ahead. You're already at a loss, right? So today, if y'all don't take anything from me, if like, all right, okay, now we're looking at what about to be August, right? Okay, that I want to start looking for a job for August. You're looking at they'll still hire you. Believe me, don't believe the hype. They'll hire you in November. This is what you're shooting for. You're shooting for October or November now. October November group is shooting for late January, February. So again, you got to think 3 months ahead. Even if you're not sure, it's always best to think about it in terms of that way and that approach. And then that will be your way of being able to be successful. When you come to me, all I ask is that you keep a good attitude and a positive attitude. Number one. Two, um, I know my style isn't for everybody. I literally like to I'm very silo. I like to work very silo. I just want you to send everything to me. I will do it for you. And then we'll have a conversation and I make myself accessible afterwards. I find that when people are too close into the process initially, they take away from my creativity or my ability to do what I need to because they want to insert what they believe is correct or how it should be written. I'm not doing that. I learned, I've stopped doing that. So I prefer my clients to leave me alone. Let me do what I need to do, and I promise you we'll have the conversation afterwards. And we'll, as long as you provide me with everything, if there's something missing, we'll talk about it. But the creative part of it does come towards the end of it when I send everything over to my clients to let them know, hey, look at it, tell me what you think. There's some things I need to change. Let's talk about it. If I agree with you, I agree with you. If I don't, we'll find a common ground together and say, okay, I'll put it on here for you. Or I might say, I'm not feeling it. I'm telling you why. Ain't no listen. But that's part of that process, but it's usually towards the latter part of it.
I like that point of just kind of being prepared. And I mean, I am a listen, I paid you, go do your job. So I don't want to pay people unless I can trust them to do their thing. So I actually
Right.
like that overall. This is a big question, especially for ladies. We have these conversations of like, I am tired, I am worn down, I need a break. And so getting to a financial point where you can take a break, because money makes the foundation for a lot of decisions. So someone has gotten their house in order and they're like, I'm going to take a year off to focus on me, to breathe, to see the world, to spend more time with my family, whatever that is. But they like, listen, but I ain't got 2 years worth of money. I got a year worth of money. So at the end of 12 months, I need to be back in somebody's office or in somebody's chair, making somebody's income. How do you prepare for that transition if you've taken time off, you've taken a adult gap year or some time away? How do you get back and say, all right, I'm ready now, and seem like a strong candidate?
Well, I usually would just, and this is where the beauty of where we're at now in employment, and everybody has a side hustle. Everybody's doing something, right? That it's not believable that you did something during that time off, so or that duration of time, right? So let's talk about travel. We know Black women love to travel now. There's a lot of that going on, especially traveling all over the world. So you mean to tell me for a whole year, you saved up a whole year's worth of salary, and you weren't a travel consultant? You didn't post something about your travels. You didn't tell people about X, Y, and Z. Come on now. So you leverage that time and just say, hey, if they say, well, you did some travel. I was like, yeah, I was a business travel consultant for about a year, and I wanted to come back. I wanted to actually leverage some of my skill set that I had from this particular job, where I was using my financial analysis skills, where I was using marketing, and it was fun while it lasted. But I had an opportunity now where I'm at right now is I'd like to get back and utilize my skill set. And I'll say, okay, we may not bring you back as a senior manager, but we'll pay you close to it. And you might say, well, I'm happy with that. I'm good. So it wasn't an L, and you might still have your 2 months of money because you start looking, like I said, 3 months in advance, right? And you're like, well, shoot, I got a little bit of money to play with. Let me go and take one more trip while I have a job and get this extra income. Because
Before
I
y'all
mean, see what I'm saying? Right.
I think it's just really good to be able to translate,
Oh,
either
absolutely.
in what you're doing, but even what about those people who, I mean, especially in the COVID times, and they were like, listen, I had another job every 18 months, maybe 12 months if they pay was right. How do you put that on paper to say, trust me this time, I ain't going nowhere?
I deal with this a lot. I deal with this a lot. I usually would simply say, in a matter of this particular situation, I would honestly just mention. I would honestly just mention. Oof. I would put parentheses, project, temporary, work assignment, temporary assignment. You label it however you see fit. Reason being is, they know that people have moved around a lot. They know that with the great resignation that happened recently, with they know that well before then, and then with the layoffs, they know if a recruiter does not have the empathy or knowledge base to understand that, or a hiring manager nowadays does not understand that, that's not the place for you. I can't stress this enough. I find it really stupid and idiotic that we're now asking certain questions that just are so irrelevant. And you know what? You get them, make if you get hit with those questions, hit them with a question. Well, considering the fact, how did you keep everything maintaining during COVID? Operations, considering the fact that one of the questions you asked me was about X, Y, and Z. It's not being a smartass. It's you. I mean, legitimately, if you're gonna waste my time and know that a lot of people got fired in 2020 or let go. And you're gonna ask me why did I move trying to find a job and I had to take on a lot of temp assignments to make sure I maintain a roof on my head? Come on now. We're not doing that. So just label it so you can say project based. Ain't nobody gonna question you. And if they do, you can give them a little blurb. I'll tell you what you can say. You can simply say, well, during COVID, like everybody else, one of the first things I did was I try to, I was laid off. I had to take on assignments to make sure I was maintaining. And luckily for me, there was a lot of temporary work. Once my projects ended that I was able to do. Use that. I gave y'all free game.
And that's a great response. And it, should that be the same? I mean, especially in this day and age, if you were let go, maybe it was positive, maybe not so positive. Um, Especially kind of depending on how much they're asking about why did you leave? Why did you transition from this place?
Yeah, I mean, oh God, I mean, I've been let go, and I've been let go, but I think there's a certain level where employers are not necessarily not. I think as long as it's not too nothing that would be promoted as like like workplace violence or things of that nature, they can't really disclose much. And you as a hiring manager can make the decision. You can talk to people, you can make and you can decide how that goes. But I can tell you a lot, and nowadays is, for example, one of the things that really doesn't bother me, but living in Washington D.C. area and in DMV area, everybody gets fired. If you haven't, I don't want to hear from you. Not once. I don't want to hear your mouth about tell me about anything. No, because quite frankly, it is the freaking norm. It really is. So everybody's get let's go, let go. Because some people work in a political atmosphere. Some people work at will employment that deals with politics and working for the mayor or working under X, Y, and Z. So there's varying factors. So it's a common thing. It might not be common elsewhere. It's a common thing in this area. So it's just a matter of what it was. And as long as you're not blacklisted, which I mean, depending on what you've done, that's where that issue is. But I tell you, just if you go through a situation where you've got let go, just say, change the leadership. Something changed, But it's like I feel bad because sometimes direction approach does change outcome, and it might have impacted you when you were doing excellent for 5 years, and all of a sudden 1 year or 6-7 months you're doing terrible because you're trying to adjust to a new change. That doesn't say anything about you. It's just something about the leadership not being able to utilize you correctly and not seeing your worth and your ability to work with you. So there's that as well. So you have to take that into consideration, not beat yourself up in the process as well.
Hmm. I think that's a really good point. And I know people are like, all right, I want to get started. What should they do tonight? So let's say they like, all right, I'm gonna call you tomorrow, but like tonight they need to do something. What should those like 2, 3 things they gotta, a spare 20 minutes after this, they're gonna like prep for their next chapter. What should those things be?
I hope so. I hope they hit me up because I got time now. I got some time, so I've been working a lot of my stuff, trying to knock a lot of my stuff down. This time, y'all. But real talk, I would say definitely just update your resume with the current job. If not, put it in the email and literally let me do it for you. You're already paying me to do it. I might as well do it for you. At least, hey, Rich, my current job ain't on here. This is the date. This is some of the stuff. Can you expand on it? Boom, I got you. If you know that you work in an atmosphere or environment that has a lot of that requires data or highlights, or you don't have data or highlights, send me that information. Send me that. Because that I can highlight and put something up there. So if you met 100% of your sales quota, or hey, I reduced fiscal spending by 20% or whatever. Listen, but again, this doesn't apply to everybody because everybody thinks that you need to have numbers. It's not the case. Some things are just not quantitative, and I have to say that. Don't feel bad, but you can write it in a way that'll showcase an achievement, which is still good. So highlight those things and send them my way, and I'll do it for you. Or you just data dump me and send everything to me. And again, most of my clients fall under would either be between my mid level and above. And if you have any questions about pricing, we can discuss that. But that's where a lot of my clients come from, are tiered. And then some of them might make 180, but they're really considered mid-level because of the responsibility and the role that they do. So again, an executive making 180, and the way I'd have to write that and price them is different. You see what I'm saying? So there's certain factors involved there, and everything is based upon tier and responsibility and role. Um, and just have 3 to 5 different jobs, and then I'll take care of everything for you. Um, and that's it. I'm very simple. You can find me at ardroresumes.com. If you're getting curious about who I am and my background, you can literally go to my LinkedIn profile, Richard Drosen, and I cannot accept any more friend requests because I am capped at my connections. But you can absolutely follow me, and I do follow back. If you send me an email, I'm not one of those folks that will not respond to you because I want you to get your email back so you can send that to a recruiter. So I just know I'm here with y'all. I'm been there with y'all. So I understand.
So tonight they're gonna get their resume. Depending on how long you've been on your job, you probably haven't put your current job. So just be like, all right, and I'm over here now. I'm working in hell. These are my
Right.
3 hellish tasks that I do. And they're gonna send that over to you. That's gonna be on the RDRO resumes.com. And then and what you said about 3 to 5 different jobs. So
Yeah, 3 to 5 different jobs. Yep. Yep.
something sounds fun. And they're gonna put all
Yep.
that together and drop that over there. And then
Yep.
you're going to do the rest with a mindset of knowing that the results or the actions that are taking place in July are going to actually, see some results towards you're going to be at Thanksgiving talking about, child, we going to Black Friday shopping because I got new money. That kind
Exactly. And I can't even tell you how many times that's happened. So then I literally laugh because I hear people write, nobody's hiring in the holiday season. And I just be like, say it ain't so. But that's what they want you to believe. They want you to stop applying during that time frame. Okay. They might say, well, I want to hire her now, bring her on board. She can start, January, but I'm hiring in October. She'll start in January because I'm going to take three weeks off, and I'm going to take another 2 weeks off with family. But I want to hire her now. Give her the money, get her in. She can start next year. So that's, people do that. I mean, possibilities are there.
I love it. It's like let's get some action going.
That's right.
That's
That's
the thing.
right.
It's like people are overthinking it. Like when I get this, when I do this, I'm almost there. No, just go ahead. Just go ahead. When you get that certification, you can add it. You can update it. When
Yeah,
you
thank you. That's a great point. That's a great point. Absolutely. Yes. You it, 3.5 months, and you're gonna get your certificate in 1.5 months, and you decided you want to come back with me and work with me a month and a half later. You now added 4.5 months or 5.5 months possibility of your time. And I usually tell folks we can put in progress on your cert. We can already add some of those things that are from the cert that could help boost you on the resume or etc. because those are factors that they're going to look at. So let's put everything together for you. Let's not limit you and put you in a predicament where you're not going to be able to get hired. You know what I mean? So there's that.
yeah, it's like let's put some things into motion. Sometimes we can talk ourselves out of it. And while we talking ourselves out of it, somebody else hyping themselves up and you like, that boy don't know nothing.
Yeah, I'm sure I don't know nothing, but I'll tell you. But I tell you, but I will tell you all this. We talked about it earlier. I know that some of y'all probably worked with folks and other resume writers and paid buku money and maybe not, but or you made a mistake and paid too little the first time, and then you bumped it up a little bit and you didn't get the quality that you wanted. You bumped it up again. Please understand that I've heard it all. Okay. And at the end of the day, if you don't trust the process and you don't trust your ability in doing X, Y, and Z, you're not going to get hired. And truth be told, we're living in a very quick satisfaction environment that is also affecting employees and employment. So please understand that when you take this approach and you want someone to help you, just trust the process. And if it doesn't work out, we'll come up with an amicable situation. I think it's safe to say that I take integrity seriously. And despite what some people may feel, I'll repeat again. And because I bring stats every day and I post it every day because they're facts, My number of clients hired is this. My clients that have failed is this. Y'all see that? So again, I can say that confidently because I've been doing it. So again, I appreciate that, and I appreciate the people that do work with me. And it's a blessing because I literally work with everybody. I don't just cater to black women, white women, etc. Matter of fact, I'll give y'all a nugget. Black women have been my top clients for the past couple of years consistently,
That's
and
beautiful.
my highest earners besides white men. But now, my white male clients are now leading to being my number one. And I'm starting to rise. Black men are starting to rise. So to me, in terms, and that makes me happy in terms because they're actually taking their career serious. For 2 years, I was really worried about black men because they were literally not sending. But black women, y'all good,
We got
we're
to do it.
good.
And we got to take care of ourselves. We got to do it.
That's
I say
right.
keep working on us.
That's right. I got you.
They'll figure it out later. We're gonna keep worrying about us. So
Yeah, that's right.
I want to thank you for joining us tonight. I want to thank you for all of the nuggets that you gave us. Because if one, you didn't take something from this and say, one, I'm doing my approach wrong. And I have this title and I keep Googling this one title and you're not getting anywhere, or you're literally finding that you're only working at the same type of place and there's so much else, or you're feeling like you're pigeonholed in a certain career, so you're feeling like you're stuck in the school system and that's not true, or you're feeling like you can't move because if you move you'll never make as much as what you make today. And so just to take 10 minutes and jot down what you think and what you're feeling, those keywords, and then do some action. So you get 10 minutes to think, set the timer. And so after we finish those 10 minutes of thinking, those 10 minutes of plotting and strategizing, if you're an overthinker, definitely set your clock, because when the alarm go off, it's time to go to rdroresumes.com and then take some action. So I want to thank everybody. Make sure you join us next Monday for another great Monday. And
Woo.
until then, have a great night.
All right, y'all. Have a good one.